Okay, last class we were discussing on the various terminologies. Okay, like investors. What is the role of investors in trading, and the clearinghouse agents? Mainly, we discussed more about clearinghouse agents. What are the role of clearinghouse agents, and all those things. So today we'll be discussing on two important things. One is delivery, and the other one is settlements. So, as most of us know that there are two ways to take delivery here. Okay, delivery can be either in the physical form, that is the physical commodities on which you have placed the future options, or it can be in the cash delivery also. That means equivalent of cash, whatever is there for that future contracts, you can exchange it in the form of cash also. So, there are two important things. One is delivery in terms of taking the physical. That's a very important and challenging thing, because we have already studied about the concept of warehousing, warehouse receipts, and all those things. So, in case of delivery contracts, the warehouses will be registered with the exchange houses. So, they should have a formal agreement with the exchange houses, that is trading exchanges. So, the warehouse receipts, whatever is there, based on which the supplier or the seller has got into an arrangement, right? So there will be a contact between the warehouse and the exchange. So whenever I want to take the delivery, I told you that it is very important that in the contract we need to specify the place of delivery and also the month in which the delivery takes place and all those things. Because there will be additional costs which will be involved in this transaction. So at the time of entering into contract, we need to be very specific on these terminologies. Okay, so this entire aspects of this delivery and settlements will be monitored through clearinghouse agents. So they are the people will ensure that how many contracts gets matured on a particular day, and make sure that all the necessary arrangement for the delivery and handover of whatever the agreement clauses were there, that will take place on that particular date. So that becomes the role of clearinghouse agents. Okay, they need to ensure that the sellers, if it is a delivery mode contracts what you have entered into, they need to ensure that the particular quantity of that particular commodities which is getting matured on that particular day of the contract, right? So they need to ensure that that particular commodity is made available to the buyer. So because they need to ensure even the buyer should pay for whatever he has agreed upon at the time of entering into the contract. So as delivery time approaches, so they don't take that particular time. So when the days are very close, they know that in next 2 months, next 2 days or 3 days, these contracts are getting for maturing. So when the delivery date approaches, okay, then the clearinghouse agents. Okay, so 1 second, just on my client is asking something. One second. Just. The day of the delivery settlement far approaches, right? So the first thing what the clearinghouse agents will do is the clearinghouse will pair buyers and sellers. So they know based on the transactions who are the buyers and who are the seller for that particular contract. So they pair. Pair means they try to just like how do you do math the following, right? So they pair the buyer. So who is the buyer and who is the seller? for this particular contract, what is the terms of conditions of delivery. So who is the buyer and who is the seller. So that's how they do it. Okay. So for the delivery, and will identify the two parties to each other. So that becomes their responsibility. They do it. Okay. Pairing of buyers and sellers, and identifying those buyers and sellers becomes very important. The second thing is the buyer and seller will communicate the relevant information concerning the delivery and process to the opposite trading partners and the clearing house. So the buyer and seller should now initiate the process. Okay. So buyer should say, yes, this is what the quantity we have agreed upon, and this is what I'm willing to buy. And seller should say, okay, this is the right price at which I had entered into contract for this particular quantity, and I'll be happy to get that money. So these type of arrangements should be made between these two. This arrangement needs to be made by them, and that needs to be ensured by clearinghouse agents. So they are the middlemen. I told you last class, clearinghouse agents are the middlemen between buyers and sellers. So they will be initiating the contract and ensure they will stay till the end of the contract. Okay, so settlement should happen, buyer should receive the goods, seller should receive his money. So till that time, clearinghouse agents ensure that the trading takes place smoothly and in a fair and transparent manner. That's very important. So that they do it. So usually the seller has a choice of exactly what features and delivery goods will have, and the seller has the right to choose which commodity will be delivered, and the seller must also tell the buyer the name of the banks to which the funds are to be transferred. Once the funds have been transmitted to the seller's bank, and the seller will deliver title to the goods to the buyer. Okay, so this is how the delivery process takes place. So we need to make sure that we send that goods and bankers where the settlement should happen, that bank details will be provided. So seller buyer should deposit that money or transmit that money through RTGS or NEFT, whatever the mode you can do, to the buyer's account and seller's account, and seller in turn will send the title of the goods. So title of the goods means to take the possession of the goods. Okay, so it can be transferring of the warehouse receipt itself in the name of the buyer. So seller can do that since the goods have been stored in the warehouse. So he can send the title to that. Title to that is any document which makes the buyer to claim the ownership of that particular commodity, right? That is called as title. Title means it should clearly specify the willingness or the intent of the seller to transfer the right to use that commodity and acquire that commodity in the name of the buyer. So that is called as title. Titles are very clear specification wherein the sellers are relinquishing their rights on that property, and they will be sending it to buyers. So that's a very important thing what they need to do. It should be done through a legal way. Okay. So in the entire process, the clearinghouse agent acts as a supervisor. So that's a very key role what these people do. Okay, so they ensure that their clearinghouse agents play a very major role. So you may get a short note question on clearinghouse agents. So their role is very important right from the contract is entered. So as soon as a future contract is entered, their role starts. So they start initially asking for the margin money, then they look for other margins. They ensure that mark to margin, whatever the daily changes in the gain or loss, what is accruing to the buyers and sellers gets transferred to their account. So these are the jobs. So any type of any types of contract related issues, okay, whichever crops up at the time of transactions or at the time of trading, right? So clearinghouse agents takes care of all those things. So they do a very, very, very balancing role. They work primarily for the exchange, and also make sure that the buyers and sellers also do a job of fulfilling their contracts in a smooth and amicable way. So, in order to make it very simple, they act as a custodian, controller, and also as a supervisor, or they make sure that the entire trade facilitates between all the three parties and even exchange also. So that's a very important role they play. They even take into consideration the exchange, and they that exchange means I'm talking about directly or indirectly the role of regulators. Okay, so exchange is monitored by regulators. So regulators want to ensure that the parties who are involved in that trading, right, they amicably settle their contracts, okay, in a fruitful manner. So the objective of exchange is met through the objective of the regulatory authorities are met through exchange, and exchange depends upon these clearinghouse agents for doing all these transactions. So they do a very pivotal role. Okay, when it comes to the question of balancing the act is concerned. So that's the entire thing happens under the supervision of clearinghouse agent. So this is what you need to clearly understand when you talk about. So if there is any dispute which arises, then the clearinghouse must intervene. That's a very important role. Please remember, in case of any dispute relating to the commodity or the price or the quality or the quantity or grade or specification, whatever it is. Okay, so in such cases, it is the responsibility of the clearinghouse agents to intervene, okay, between these and try to settle the matter amicably. Okay, so this entire thing is monitored by they don't frame their own rules. Okay, see, the clearinghouse agent just execute the rules. Okay, they don't do any they don't any pass any rules or something like that on their own. So only job is to they need to ensure whatever the exchange is telling, right. So the exchange is the one which forms the standardized contract. So they are the people who vet the contract. They are the people who monitor the contracts and all those things. The job of clearinghouse agent is to just execute those things. Okay, so they execute whatever the exchange has made the rules or has formed the contracts. So it ensures that as per whatever the exchange specifications are there, the contracts are honored. So that is the job of clearinghouse agents. So they don't make any rules, they don't frame any standards or nothing like that. So they are just an executing and supervising body. They execute whatever is told by the exchange, and they supervise whether all the transaction takes place according to what the exchange has told. So that is their role. Okay, so they play a very important role. So as we have already discussed, and anyone cannot become a clearinghouse agent. So there are certain guidelines. Okay, so you come under some SEBI specific guidelines with respect to the board, constituents of board, the exposure and experience what you should have in order to run the business of this and all those things. So there are a lot of credit weightings and all those things which needs to be ensured before you take up the position of becoming a clearinghouse agent. So there are a lot of specification which is involved in that. So I think I have discussed more on that. So this is about delivery. So delivery is a very important stage. If it is a physical delivery, these are all the steps which are involved. If it is not a physical delivery, then it goes through settlement. Okay, settlement will happen through cash. So you need to pay the cash. I'll come back to that in a few minutes from now. So so this is the next part. So we have discussed about investors. We have discussed about the role of clearinghouse agents. We have discussed about what is an exchange and how to play. And we have discussed about even the brokers also. So what is the role of a broker and how the contracts are ordered for the contracts have been placed, and how the exchange servers are getting accessed by the brokers, and what is the role of a clearinghouse agents, and all these things we have understood now. So we have now understood even what is delivery process also. So when the future contracts needs to be settled, how the delivery takes place. So then coming back to the very important thing, which is on settlement part. So what is settlement? Settlement is the paying of the contract values. So that is called a settlement. So settlement can be in terms of giving back the goods, whatever you have agreed upon, and paying back the money, whatever you have agreed upon. That is called a settlement. Settlement can be um, either settlement will be in the form of paying for the money, whatever you have agreed upon at the time of entering into the contract. That will come back to that. What is the money you should settle? How you need to arrive at a settlement price and all those things. Second one is on the front of the physical settlement. So if it is a physical settlement, we have already discussed. It's a delivery. Whatever is delivery, we studied, right? That is a physical settlement. If it's a cash settlement, how to do it? So these are the two things which you need to bear it in mind when we are talking about settlement. So there are three types of patterns, we can call it as. There are three patterns of settlement. So first, initial settlement will come when you pay the daily mark to market settlements. So what is this daily mark to market settlement? Daily mark to market settlement is throughout the contract. Okay, as soon as the contract starts until the contract ends. Let us say 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, depending upon the contract period, whatever you have entered into. Future contract period. So the settlement, the first type of settlement will start initially itself. That is called as mark to market settlements. What is mark to market? We have discussed on this. So since we are valuing the contract on basis of an underlying asset, so the price of the contract is determined based on the underlying assets. So that's the basis on which we are negotiating the contracts. Okay, that's how derivatives name has come. I've told a number of times. What do you mean by derivative? Derivative means you are deriving the price. So how do you derive? You derive the price of a commodity based on some base commodity that is called as underlying assets. Underlying asset is the base commodity based on which you have arrived at a price. So that you keep it as a base and you arrive at a price, and there is a spot price. Spot price means today's prevailing price for that commodity. Okay, so that price is available from the exchange itself. Spot price is available when you are entering into the contract. What is the price of the contract? That prevailing price is already arrived. Okay, so you don't know what is the price at which the final settlement will happen, because you need to wait till the time comes. So that final settlement price will be derived based on other form. I'll come back to that. How do they determine the final settlement price? But every day there is a fluctuation in the price of the commodities. Okay, so you have kept the underlying price, and every day the price keeps on changing depending upon the demand and supply in the market for that particular commodity. Okay, so daily the contracts are getting executed on similar type or same type of commodities in the future markets. So every day there is a price gain and price loss which will be happening. So if there is a gain for buyer, then there will be definitely loss for seller. If there is a gain for seller, then definitely there will be a loss for buyer. So this war of price keeps on happening. Okay, over that future contract period. So the settlement needs to be adjusted every day. Okay, so for any fluctuation in the prices. So daily mark to market settlement is done till the date of the contract expiry. That means if you have taken 2 months future contract, so it will happen till 2 months future contract. Every day, whatever the movement of changes are happening in the price, right, that gets settled. So this is done to take care of daily price fluctuation of all trades. All the open positions of the member are marked to market at the end of the day, and the profit or loss is determined as below. So I'll tell you what are the things under which they determine the profit. First one, on the day of entering into the contract, it is the difference between the entry value and daily settlement price for the day. So daily settlement price is the closing price. So the exchange closes at, let us say, 3 o'clock. So before that, what is the price of the close for that particular type of commodity contracts on that particular day? So what is the entry price? Entering into the contract, what is the day entry value minus your settlement price? So if you have gained on that particular day, okay, then you get the gain will be transferred to your account. If you are lost, then again the loss will be transferred to that particular account. So that is the first stage of getting the settlement on the first day of the entering into the contract itself. So on any intervening day, when the member holds an open position, it is the difference between the daily settlement price for the day and the previous day's daily settlement. So in the subsequent days, okay, it will be if you are going for an open position, okay. So whatever the previous close was there, previous settlement close was there, that is yesterday's closing of the market, that will be taken as the opening, and the daily settlement on that particular day, how much the market closed. So on that difference, that will be taken as the gains or loss, depending upon the price fluctuation, what has happened. On the final day, that is on the expiry of the contract. So beginning of the contract, beginning day of the contract, intervening day means middle of the days throughout which the contract is honored, and the last day, expiry day. On the expiry day, if the member has an open position, it is the difference between the final settlement price and the previous day's settlement price. So what is the final settlement price? So that will come in the next part. Okay, I'm still discussing about the mark to market margins. So this is daily, which will come into picture. So that difference, whatever the gain or loss is there, that will also be transferred in the name of the buyer and seller. Secondly, that the third important point what we discussed is on the end of the contract date. So let us say you have taken a 90 days contract. So on the 90th day, whatever we call it as the expiry day of the contract. So on that day, again, what is the settlement price you have agreed upon? So final settlement price, what you have agreed upon, minus or not agreed upon, arrived upon. Okay. So please correct myself there. I want to correct myself there. It's not agreed, it's arrived price. So because the final settlement price will be arrived at that point of time. So that particular arrival final settlement which is arrived, the price which is arrived at that particular point of time, minus the previous day's close, that is yesterday at what market close for that particular type of future contracts. So that difference, you calculate the gain or loss, and accordingly it will be transferred to the people, seller or buyer, based on the gains or loss. So this is very important thing. So the margin money will be used for all these things. I told you, right, initially you need to enter into a margin. Okay, you need to pay 10% of or 5% of your contract price for the margin. So that money will be used for this gain or loss. So any person who loses needs to bring it out from his margin money, and it should be transferred to the person who gains. Similarly, if any person gains, he gets credit for that. So tomorrow, if he loses, then he need to transfer that money from his account to the person who gains. So that's why margin money keeps on changing. It's not that one time you need to put only 5 or 10%. So that is the role of a clearinghouse agent. So they will be insisting upon looking at the accounts balance of buyers and sellers, right? They will be telling, no, now you need to put some more money. That's why derivative contracts, people think that it is a very draconian thing where people will lose a lot of money. Okay, if they don't execute the contract properly, they lose money. That means they need to keep on bringing money till the contract is over. So that's why they many of them feel that a derivative segment is too risky segment. Okay, so because of all these procedural things which are involved, so depending upon the market volatility and price fluctuation and all those things, so since you need to pay for daily settlement on this mark to market, people feel that it's a risky way of dealing with these transactions. Okay, so yes, that's why I told you it's advisable only if you have very good knowledge about these segments. Please venture into these segments, or else don't go into these segments. Okay, because if you don't understand how it works, then it's not really no point in wasting your money getting into such type of contract. Better to trade in stocks or go into investment in stocks and keep quiet. Okay, so if you are really committed and if you are really know how the market performs and how the market responds and all those things, then better to go into this option futures and options. Okay, options you don't lose much money, but futures you lose very big amount. Okay, because of their types of contracts, what your standardized contracts, what you are entering into, right? So, and the role of clearinghouse agents is very important here. So in option, we don't get into this. You get an option there, you lose only the initial margin, whatever is there. Only that amount you will lose, because it gives an option for you now to exit at any point of time, okay, without honoring the contract. So there is no compulsion on your side. That's why they have called it as option. You have an option. Okay, so there is no obligation. That's why they use the word obligation is not there. Only an option is there for you. So if you want, you can honor the contract on that particular day, or if you don't want, you can just come out of that contract and you lose the margin money, whatever you have introduced. So the risk premium, they call it as. Okay, so since that is not there, I'm not covering here. Okay, options are not there. So here, but the problem is since you have committed to the contract. And you have started working with the clearinghouse agents by depositing the margin money, then it becomes your responsibility. Whatever the changes are there, you need to accept that contract. Okay, so gain or loss, it's on your head. So unless and until you are very good in markets, you know which are the commodity, what is the underlying asset, what is the price at which you need to buy and execute. And there are other options like spread and all those things which you need to take into consideration, okay, while entering into derivatives. So if you can take those things and try to balance your loss, you minimize your loss, okay, that is possible. So, and because it gives you maximum gain also, but minimizing your loss is also very important. And especially the larger interest when you want to see, when you want to buy some commodities, keeping in mind some 6 months, 7 months down the lane and all those things, this is the better way of doing it. Okay, so this benefits both the party actually. That is about mark to market settlement. Mark to market settlement, three types. One is on the day of taking the contract, so you need to get it settled first. So that is on the contract price at which you have agreed upon based on the underlying asset, and the settlement on that particular day close price. So the difference needs to be settled. Then it comes second day onwards till the day of execution of the contract, till 1 day before the execution of the final contract. So the settlement will be done on the previous settlement close date and the current settlement close date. So the difference will be taken there. And the last one is on the expiry date, that is on the day on which the contract, future contract expires. So on that, we need to take the difference between the final settlement price, which I will tell you how to arrive at final settlement price minus the previous day's settlement price. Okay, so that is the close price. So these are the three important things you need to remember when you are talking about daily mark-to-market settlements. So this needs to be done. Okay. The second type of settlements you need to do is a final settlement. So what do you mean by final settlement? Final settlement is the final close of the contract, expiry date, what we call it as. So if it is a future contract for 60 days, then we are talking about 60th day. If it is a 90 days contract, it is a 90th day we are talking about. So if it is a 30 days contract, then 30th day, that is called as the final settlement date. Okay. So on that date, how to finalize the contract? This is apart from your mark to margin. Okay. Don't think this is a mark to margin. That is different. That is in addition to final settlement, you need to do your mark to margin also. Okay. So that will be an addition to this final settlement, what we are doing. So on the day of expiry, the final settlement price is the closing price of the underlying commodities in the stock market on the date of expiry of the future contract. So this is very important point. So how do you arrive at the final settlement? It is the final settlement is the price of the underlying asset. So I told you, you are entering into a contract by keeping underlying asset as a base. That is why we call it as derivative contracts. So now what happens on the day of the final settlement? What is the day? 60th day. So you need to see what is the final, what is the closing price. Closing price is the price which is prevailing on the trading exchanges. Okay, so exchange, for example, I think if you are watch any NDT profit or something, you will be seeing on the screen. Okay, today this stock price closed at this price. They will display that. Okay, then they will show whether it got increased or decreased from last on, what is the percentage of increase, decrease, and all those things, right? So that is the closing price. Closing price means today at what price in the exchange that particular underlining asset closed. If I have taken as gold as underlining asset, so today in that exchange, what is the underlining assets in which the gold closed? It can be MCX or MCDX or whatever exchange you are dealing with, commodity exchange. So on that exchange, at what price that particular commodity closed. Okay, so that will be treated as the exchange, that will be treated as the final settlement price. Okay, so that is at the closing hours of the exchange. So if exchange is, let us say it closes at 2 o'clock. So at 2 o'clock when the exchange closed, when the trading stopped, so what is the closing price of that underlying asset on which you have entered into contract, in future contract, right? So that will be taken as the final price. Okay, on the date of expiry of the future, the spot prices are collected from polling participants from base centers as well as other locations. The poll price are bootstrapped, and the midpoint of the two bootstrap price is the final settlement price. So that's also called as a spot price, because that's the final price on which the commodity closed. The responsibility of settlement is on the trading cum clearing member of all trades done on his own account and his client's trades. A professional clearing member is responsible for settling all the participant trades which he has confirmed to the exchange. So that becomes again a role of settlement trading settlers. So they are called as clearing members. Okay, there are clearing members whose job is to ensure or arrive at a price and do the settlements. So while doing the settlement, they ensure that the necessary charges, taxes, and as applicable will be adjusted, and then the settlement will be done. So that becomes the responsibility of the clearing authorities. Okay, trade clearing authorities. So again, this is a very, just like how clearinghouse agents were there. So clearinghouse agents doesn't do all the settlements and all. Okay, they ensure that buyers and sellers gets relieved. Okay, that's their role. But trading and these settlements will be done by the specified clearing settlers. Okay, there are people called as clearing agents. So they do that. Okay, the clearing members are there who do all these things. Then the cash settlement. So that's about final settlement. Final settlement is done based on the final settlement price of the closing price of the underlying commodity in the spot market on the date of expiry of the future contracts. Okay, so then cash settlement, how the cash settlement is done. Cash settlement is a method of settling future contracts by cash rather than by physical delivery. So physical delivery, we have already studied how to do it, but cash is settlement through cash of underlying asset. The party settled by paying, receiving the loss or gain related to the contract in cash when the contract expires. So this is again a role of clearinghouse agents. They ensure that the cash settlements takes place in a proper manner and in a proper direction as set forth in the contract. So in future contracts, the buyer agrees to purchase some assets or underlying security in the future at a price agreed upon today. In physical settled future contracts, the future purchase price is paid by the buyer and the actual asset is delivered to the seller. In a cash settled future contracts, the buyer and the seller simply exchange the difference in the associated cash position. So that means they just enter the transaction and settle the value in the cash format. The cash position is the difference between the spot price and the asset on the settlement date and the agreed upon price as discussed in the forward or future contract. So what is this cash position? It is the difference between the spot price. Spot price means the prevailing market price is called as spot price. So on that particular day, what is the market close price? That is called a spot price of the asset on the settlement date and the agreed upon price. So what is the agreed upon price? This is entered into at the time of entering into the contract. So one is spot price, another is agreed price. So spot price is what is prevailing on the day of expiry of the contract. Market price prevailing on the expiry date of the contract. Agreed price is the price when you entered into contract. So what is the price you fixed? Okay, that is the agreed price. So agreed difference between the agreed price and the spot price. The difference will be settled. Okay. It may seem confusing as to why cash position is the difference between the spot price at settlement and agreed upon the contract. Cash settlement is useful and other preference because it eliminates much of the transaction cost that would otherwise be incurred when physical delivery of goods takes place. So real, right? Because I told you there are some transportation costs, loading cost, unloading cost, everything is involved in the physical delivery of goods. But here, such things will not be there. And that's why they take the spot price prevailing on their date of finalization of the contract minus the initial price at which the contract was entered into. So the difference will be settled. So there is no transaction cost, transportation cost, loading, unloading cost, insurance, nothing will be there here. Okay. So cash settlement also helps reduce credit risk for future contracts. When entering into future contracts, each party must deposit money into the margin account when gain or loss are paid into taken out of. So I told you this. Future contracts are cash settled daily and gains are received paid daily, eliminating the chances that the party will be unable to pay. So the commodity trading system consists of certain prescribed steps or stages in stages. So what are the stages? The first one is trading. So what is this trading? At this stage, the following is the system implemented. So trading is first step where you go for order receiving, execution of the order, matching of the order, reporting, surveillance, and price limit and position limit. So these are the things which is there in the trading part. Second is clearing part is where you go for matching, registration, clearing limits, margining, price limits, position limits, and clearinghouse. So the role of clearinghouse comes here. Settlement is the last stage in any contracts. So the stage follows marking to market, receipts and payment, reporting, delivery upon expiration, and all those things. So these are the three stages which are there in the entire future contract. First one is trading, second one is clearing, and the fourth one is settlement. So the third one is settlement. So entire future contracts goes in this process only. Okay, so that's a very important thing which we need to understand. Fine. So what are the advantages of online trading, online commodity trading? First one is flexibility. So you get an option here. Okay, you can go for whatever position you want. You want long position, you want short position, or you want to go for open position. Whatever position you are willing to do, right? You get the flexibility of choosing your own options in case of futures. So that helps in covering your risk and spreading your risk in various forms, and this will help in standardizing yourself into the commodity markets. So it gives you a lot of options for you to make yourself safe, okay, while trading in the commodity markets. So the flexibility means to have the freedom of watching the market and making quick trades if needed. So that's what it gives you a very good position for you to change every now and then, so that you can minimize your loss. Okay. Then lower commission. So here only nominal amount needs to be paid to these clearinghouse agents as a commission, but there is no other commission other than broker commission which is involved, especially for some trades. Okay, so other than that, there is nothing a big amount of commission which you are supposed to pay here. So investors can expect much quicker execution of their trade through the online broker as well as lower commissions also. Liquidity, another major benefit of online commodity trading is liquidity. That means you can convert your commodities into cash very soon. Okay, is characterized by high level of trading activity. Assets that can be easily bought or sold are known as liquid assets. Okay, Then leverages is there. Leverages is a position which you can go for thinking about your the balancing act of the funds which you can utilize in your trade options are also very much available here. Um, Benefit of leveraging means use of borrowed capital or margin to increase the potential return of investment. Only a small percentage of total value of position is needed to be paid upfront to get full benefit of the enhanced profits. So leveraging is also there. Then diversification, of course, you can look into various instruments or products which are available in the market. So diversification is always a very important thing which you need to follow in either stock market or in commodity market. This will help you in spreading your risk. Okay, so minimization of risk is a very important thing in stock market because stock markets are subject to a lot of risky factors. So, in order to make yourself to be in a comfortable situation, it is better for you to take a very wise decision. So, that wise decision is possible only if you can allocate your portfolio in various forms of instruments. So you can choose various diversified portfolios which are there in commodity exchanges also. So you can just take a chance of diversifying your portfolios and minimizing your risk. So diversification is possible when we talk about commodity exchange. So these are some of the advantages. So wherever there is advantages, there will be definitely some disadvantages also. So what are the disadvantages? So the first is need a mentor. So as I was telling you, 1 second, your principal is calling. 1 second. Okay, sorry. There are some disadvantages. First one, mentoring. So see, whenever it's very difficult to judge the market. But today, this is not a constraint for us because there are a lot of ways where you can learn basics about how to do transaction commodity marketing and all those things. Okay, so there are various ways under which you can deal with the commodity exchanges. So, keeping those things in mind, I think. Madam. ಇದೀನಿ ಬನ್ನಿ ಬನ್ನಿ ಈಗಲೇ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ 11:30 ಅಷ್ಟೊತ್ತು ಬನ್ನಿ ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ ಇರಲ್ಲ ನಾನು 12:30 ಮೇಲೆ so now what you can do is you can just have a current situation. There are a lot of, if you go to Google search and type basics about commodity exchange, you get so many videos on that. Okay, so many videos are there, so many tutors are there, so many online classes are there. So mentoring is a very important thing at the initial stage. And one thing, you trust me, no one will tell you exactly how to do trading in the market. Okay, so they give you hints, or they give you they share their knowledge. Okay, but ultimately it is your wise decision making power which will help you out in deciding how to trade in the market. So this will come by experience. Okay, so many big traders have lost huge money before they became successful. So it's a matter of time. How do you understand? Because it goes more by psychological factors, and a lot of other influencing factors are there. So you need to be, you need to do it in a start with a small venture and start doing it, expanding itself. Okay. So mentoring is very important, of course, because initial stages you require some handholding about how to deal with the markets and all those things. So yes, that is there. The second important thing is leveraging. So commodity future operates on margin. So that's one of the major risk which is there. You need to keep on putting cash, okay, whenever it is required, because day-to-day settlement should happen, right? So that's one disadvantages which is there. Which means you should have enough liquidity with you, where you need to keep on putting that money into the market as a margin. Okay. Needs to be available in cash in the trading account. So you keep on need to put money. That is one risk which is there, and one disadvantages we can call it as. But the objective is to ensure. See, if there is a gain, you again get some money out of it, right? So yes, you cannot call this as disadvantages, okay? Because if you want effective way of settling the contracts, right, you need to undergo all these things. So I don't know why these people call disadvantages. See, I'm taking from your textbook, okay? So I'm against all these things, whatever the points they're mentioning, right? This is simply to accommodate points as a disadvantage, because in exam they'll ask how many disadvantages he has written. 5, okay, give him some mark. But whether these disadvantages are really disadvantages, no, I don't think so. Because how can you call this putting a margin money as a disadvantage? See, the objective of the trade is to facilitate that both the parties should enter into contract with known things, right? So they need to be settled, they need to be corrected if they are going wrong. So how do you penalize the person? Because if there is a loss for one person, definitely there will be gain. If you don't do it, then you are causing injustice to the other person who is making gain, right? So I don't think these are all losses which are there here. Okay, fine. Then the last point is over trading. That there is a lot of controlling measures which has been put here, because commodities are also essential commodities which are there. I don't again buy this point of over trading. Online commodity trading can be risky if investors are not disciplined. Yes, that's the right. That disclaimer I made it initially itself. If you are really good in derivative market, venture into it, or else better don't opt this derivative markets. Okay, fine. So this is overall about the settlement and trading. So I need to take some class. Okay, I think your colleges will open shortly. So once it open, right, I'll take a 2-hour session where I need to present you the physical flow of how things happen. Because whatever theory I've told you, it might not be clear till now for you to connect the dots. So you you might have understood the terminologies, but you don't know how to connect it when it goes to the market. Okay. So, but I need to physically show you how to do it. Okay, through either a video or through a flow diagram on the notice on the whiteboard and all those things. So once your class opens, right, I will just have 1 hour or 2 hour session on this. I will show you some videos on this as to how the trading takes place. I'll write something on the whiteboard and explain you how the process takes place. Because whatever the theory you have studied, you need to now apply the theory in practical ways, how to link it. So that linking needs to be done now. Okay, so I'll request the HOD and also the principal madam, okay, wherein we can meet once and we'll discuss this particular topic on the settlement and the trading part, especially. Now, rather than settlement, it's trading part which is very important. How the exchange works and how the order gets placed. All those things you need to know. Okay, so I'll show some of the indexes also, how to read an index and how to read the performance of this commodity, all those things. So I'll show you physically how these things happen, so that you need to see all those things. So fine. So that's it for today. So we have discussed more on this trading and settlement. I think almost 5 classes we dealt with trading and settlements. So we'll go to the next chapter in the next class. Okay. So if you have any doubts, you can ask me, or else we'll close this session today. So if you have any doubts, please ask me now. So if you don't have any questions, okay, we'll close it. So we'll meet in the next session. I think Monday or Tuesday. I think so. Tuesday we'll meet. So there I'll discuss some other things on the next chapter, which is there for you. So I think that will be the last chapter, right? For your, I think I'll complete the syllabus. Whatever the last chapter is there, I'll just deal with it and I'll complete the syllabus in the next 2 or 4 sessions. Thank you. Thank you all.